Hello, and welcome to the Santaland podcast. I created it just for you. I'm your host, Tony Felice. In each episode, I'll read to you for 10 minutes, and then we'll talk about what we just heard. Like the cricket in my story, I'll guide you through a grown-up fairy tale, one that explores ideas of existence, identity, and the soul's journey through trauma, and the transformative power of love. By the end, you'll have heard my whole story, a sneak peek into the creative process of bringing a book to life. Maybe we'll read other books together. But for now, follow the wise cricket and discover the Santaland within yourself, a place of hope, connection, and peace that's already inside of you. This podcast is especially made for those like me who feel a little different and maybe talk about math at weddings or philosophy at funerals. And like me, maybe you have a loving husband or a wife or somebody else that loves you. If not, we're here to love you because you're in good company, my dear friends, here in Santaland. Hello, and welcome back to the Santaland podcast. Tonight we read chapter 24, and a bit of a warning, it is a challenging piece of prose to listen to. It is a challenging piece of prose to write and to speak. So please bear with me. Chapter 24, entitled The Path of Sorrows. Journal entry number 4. Dear Journal / David. A child's innocence is all they have before adulthood. It's the only thing we own that's truly ours. I wish people knew that. I wish I had made a different choice. But when one is innocent, they move forward, not backwards. They trust, they believe, and those things are so important to never fear with, or it breaks a child. In 1971, I left Joe's house so happy, with a warm feeling inside. Autumn was and always is my favorite time of year. It heralds in the mystery of death and renewal. And my mother and I always celebrated our birthdays together. It was our thing. That year, my mama had made me a cake, shaped like a coffin, with a plastic skeleton inside. She even built the lid of the coffin so it hovered over the skeleton, and only its hand could be seen sticking out from under it. I remember how carefully she made the little rosettes of icing onto the cake, so that the entire thing was covered in perfectly lined black roses. It was stunning. What she didn't take into consideration was the type of skeleton she used, and it made the whole cake taste like plastic. We laughed and we retold that story many times. I didn't care. I loved it, and I loved her. This was the day after my birthday, and I had gone to my friend Joe's house to play with the skeleton in the leaves. We had a wonderful time. His sister Elaine made us bread and butter sandwiches with a bit of cinnamon and applesauce. We sat on the back porch with it smeared on our faces, the dirt expanding our grins, while we laughed out loud and talked about Halloween. That's why I was late coming home, David. Dusk happens fast when you're having fun. That day brought real Halloween terrors and one magic trick. I walked along the street towards home. Something inside me said, "Don't go that way," even though I had walked on the left side of the street many times. It was as if the trees had spoke to me as the wind blew through them. I could almost hear them say, "Be careful, stay in the sunlight." But I was too young to listen to trees that echoed the voice inside me. No one ever told me about that voice before, or that it was possible to hear trees. And because no one ever told me, I didn't believe it was true. I thought it was my imagination. Because my father made fun of my imagination, I thought it might be bad. So Ignoring the warning of trees, I walked on the left anyway, because it was faster. I calculated in my mind that I would get home quicker by going on the left side, even though it was darker. But it was certainly better than being yelled at for coming home late. My father expected certain things to be done a certain way. I hurried across the street and I began walking and looking at the houses, trying to reassure myself that I had made the right choice, as evidenced by the number of hands in the front windows of houses. See, David, in the 1970s, they handed out these posters of a hand that families could put in their windows to let the kids know it was safe, a refuge from harm. Children had gone missing, and they talked to us about stranger danger at school. On that day, I knew that there were 7 hands to get home, and I was a big boy now. As I was passing the worst house on the street, ugly and scary, I remember looking up at the trees, just as he jumped out from behind a holly bush. He was a swift shadow that took up behind me, a spooky and frightening thing as anything you could imagine at Halloween. He grabbed the hood of my jacket and time stood still. I noticed the way the sun peeked through the trees across the street and that the sunlight now fell across my chest and my face in ribbons of light. I was transfixed by the beauty of the trees and the silliness of someone jumping out to scare me. But there was more on the menu than just fright. His big arms encircled me, and before he spoke, I could smell his stink and his rancid breath in my ear as he whispered, "You think you're so smart," as I was dragged backwards. His hand now on my mouth and my screams muffled by his calloused, hairy hand. I kicked and struggled with all my might, David, but he dragged me inside, pushing the screen door open with his foot and backing inside with me. I couldn't see clearly. It was so dark and so terrible. He tortured me, physically, mentally. My little mind has blanked out much of the details, and for that I am grateful. But I do remember enough, and I struggled with him, with his weight on me. So I bit his hand. And as I bit down, I could see silver tape on a dirty table covered with garbage. And I didn't know what that silver tape was, but somehow in my little boy mind, David, I knew that if that tape got on me, I would not get out of that closet alive. I knew I was going to die, and it was going to be awful. So, David, I bit down with everything I had, and I bit through to the bone, and I felt the coppery taste of his blood in my mouth, and I kept biting like I never bit anything before. And the crazy thing, the most incongruous thing in the world, David, was this little voice inside me. It said, "Bite, but show mercy." Mercy! Inside my little boy mind, I argued with this voice. I wanted to tear that flesh out with my teeth, but the voice told me to stop when I hit the bone and to kick with all I had. And it worked. I broke free and I ran through the screen door, right through as if I was a superhero, David. I burst through the screen door screaming. The little voice inside me rejoiced and told me that I could do it. And I got across the porch and down the stairs, and I could feel him behind me. It was as if I took flight, David. I screamed, running on air like I had never run before. Without breathing, I ran. I counted the hands in the houses, in their windows, one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 3 more hands. I wanted to make it. I begged the voice inside my body to help me get free. I burst through our front door, bloody evidence on my Mighty Mouse t-shirt. My father was getting ready for work, and he said, "What the?" My mother screamed, and she ran me to the bathroom where she pulled off all my clothes and put me in the bathtub. I told her a bad man hurt me, and I bit him. She told me it was okay, and she screamed for my father, and I blacked out. I must have entered a state of shock, because I can't remember the rest of it. The next day, my father was killed, and I was told nothing about what happened to me. I asked my mother, and she told me that it was just a bad dream. She told me to sleep and to dream of other things because that bad dream would never happen to me again. But she lied. It did. Every night I dreamt of hands touching me in places that made me feel uncomfortable. I dreamt of strange little people at the end of our street who lived in the weeds just to steal children. I dreamt of being in a dark room with hands touching me, and in my dreams I screamed. You were right, David. I needed to put this out there in this journal so that someone could witness what I went through, so I don't have to carry it alone. And now you know my secret. After 30 years, you know my truth. I honestly don't know how I survived. I didn't know a lot of things on my way to becoming Thomas Sanders, the one you know, the one I really am. In fact, in some ways I'm still that little boy, terrified of monsters and running towards something I may never find. Peace? Justice? I suppose maybe it's better to not care anymore. Why? Because I have you. I don't need a story, David, the real one. I don't need apologies, because my mother in heaven is perfect. She's magic. The earthly mother of mine did her best. And perhaps on her deathbed she did tell me in words that I could not understand from her garbled, delirious state. I want to believe. No, I do believe that she told me something that I needed to know, and that it sits inside me, waiting for me to discover it. I love you with all my heart, David. Thomas Sanders. Dear listener, thank you for listening, and thank you for hearing my story. God bless.